It's been 5 days and they've gotten 1 million users. And I instantly opened it up, saw what it was capable of, fired my whole team, pulled the plug on the startup, on the whole company, even though I'd invested thousands of dollars into it, and said, we're jumping into this. I was telling Josh about this last time. The fact that your 7-month-old son is named Atlas, just because that's the name I've always wanted to use for my son.
You can use it. Yeah.
As long as I got your permission, man.
I actually named my first son after a past guest.
The power of a name.
Yeah. It made our second episode kind of weird. I didn't tell him, and then I told him like on the show. I was like, oh, by the way, I know we talked like 2 years ago. I named my son after you.
Yeah. You know, that's funny. I think that's a good transition simply to how AI Daddy came about. The power of the name. Ironically, when I first shifted to the AI space, I brainstormed a lot of names, having my fair share of experience in marketing and branding and all these things. I kept trying to figure out what was the right name to use, because when you look at the space of artificial intelligence, people's reactions are kind of split right down the middle. It's either you are insanely excited and thrilled about this new tech that's going to automate, simplify, and accelerate your life, or you're terrified. You're literally just scared like shitless. I've talked to both kinds of people on the spectrum, and realizing how there's more people who are scared of it, who are kind of putting it off, exploring it because they think it's going to steal their data, it's going to ruin a rule and take over the world. I'm like, it's got to be something that causes some kind of positive emotion. That's kind of how I came up with AI Daddy. Brainstorming a bunch of names, sent them all to all my friends and family, and just saw which one they preferred. And regardless of which one they picked, they all instantly laughed and had a big smile on their face when they said AI Daddy.
Oh yeah.
And that was the inception of choosing that name and then going into the AI field full time.
I love it. I named the podcast by coming up with 2 or 3 names. I just texted everybody that I knew and liked and respected, and then I had them all say, A or B, and they picked Modern CTO. I don't remember what the other option was, but that's what we got.
I like it, man.
So you said you were in marketing before. How did you get involved in this at all?
So my background has actually been over 9 years of tech startup consulting, specifically more on the operations side, and more specifically, basically coming in and helping systematize and automate all of a startup's processes, creating like the SOPs, figuring everything out so that you can actually scale, right? Because usually when you first start a business, the bottleneck is you. You're trying to do everything. And as you bring in more employees, more people, you're having to teach them what you're doing, but you don't really know how to explain it. You're kind of running on autopilot and putting out fires every day. I kind of naturally just transitioned into the AI space because I was telling Josh, actually, I was in the middle of launching a new tech company, startuptemplates.com. Basically, a whole library of all the templates you need to go from idea to launch and then to scale every department. Had made this library of hundreds, thousands of templates. And the day I launched was like day 5 of ChatGPT being out. And when all the headlines came out that said, it's been 5 days and they've gotten 1 million users. And I instantly opened it up, saw what it was capable of, fired my whole team, pulled the plug on the startup, on the whole company, even though I'd invested thousands of dollars into it, and said, we're jumping into this because I could still be making money hell, for the next 3-5 years, selling these templates, doing these things. But I'm literally in a dying industry, right? And I think that's what a lot of people really need to kind of think about right now with all this AI tech coming out. It's either do you completely pivot, or what I end up learning afterwards is, well, that was a bit extreme of me. But what's also more than capable and, actually really beneficial is simply how do you integrate all that AI technology into your company to survive moving forward so it stays relevant. And yeah, I just went all into the AI game, trying to absorb everything that I could. And I'll say this right now, I am not an expert. I will never claim to be an expert. And I think anyone who says they're an expert in AI is full of shit. And don't get me wrong, there's the people who are experts at machine learning, developing and coding and programming and essentially building these AI models. But once that AI technology is out in the wild, none of us have any clue what it's capable of. Because especially if it's generative AI, which just means it keeps learning from every input, it keeps learning from itself and everything that you share with it, that's moving and growing and advancing so rapidly that there's no way any of us can keep up. And honestly, the whole space of artificial intelligence and all the influencers and all the experts, we are like surviving, even the companies, like the tech startups that are AI startups, we are literally going at everything week by week. That's how our business plans, our business models, everything's needing to be reassessed because new tech is coming so quick, so exponentially, that like we're all just trying to figure it out. And the people who are the experts or claim to be, or that you can actually rely on, are genuinely just the people who are like 2 weeks ahead because they have, like me, I have a little bit of an insider knowledge on a lot of these platforms and with a lot of these companies, because now that I've established myself as an expert or influencer in the field, they're coming to me, giving me a chance to alpha, beta test all these technologies and seeing what it's capable of. And that's where I kind of have a little bit of an edge. And it's also the willingness that I recognize, I don't know what the hell I'm doing with AI. And none of the people around me do either. And it's the way you adjust to that is you get rid of your ego. And what I mean by that is, so I'm the expert I was the expert for like the last decade on operations and scaling systems. And when I first started using AI, I'd use it to solve math problems. I'd use it to write content for me, all these things that I wasn't an expert at. But the things that I was an expert at, my ego kept getting in the way and saying, no, I can do it better. This is surface level answers. I know like a lot of people, have you ever tried ChatGPT?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yes. Yeah. We use it in our business. It's saved us about $100,000 a year already.
Yep. It's incredible. But I'm sure you've noticed how at face value, when you first put in a couple prompts, the answers feel generic, right?
Yeah, prompting's the skill. That's going to be like the new skill is how to prompt. I mean, to your point earlier of the different groups of people and how they respond, I've stopped doing anything other than just kind of smiling in my head, because there is a whole group of people that have their head in the ground and they're like, oh, it'll never be as creative as this. My favorite one was this. Oh, all it does is just take its past knowledge and sort of mix it together to create something new. It can't do what a human can do. It can't be creative. I'm like, you literally just described what humans do.
Yep. It's ridiculous. Yeah, the rate at which it's growing. Well, what I was trying to get at with the ego thing is simply, I've noticed, and I've talked to a lot of people who they say, hey, I'm an expert writer. I'm using it for everything else but writing. But the moment they get rid of that ego part and they actually dive into it, that's where you unlock such a crazy capability with AI. Because I've had access to over 600 AI tools, and I've been testing them and playing with all of them. And I can say maybe half of them on their website, the first banner you see is it will 10x your marketing, 10x your emails, 10x your sales, 10x whatever it is that they're focused and niched on. That's the case if you're a complete beginner. When you're an expert in something, that's going to 100x your output and your results. And so it's but most people don't get there because their ego is saying, hey, I'm the expert at this thing. AI is not capable enough, or I don't want to feel like the years of experience of my life that I put into mastering this thing are all for nothing, right? It's terrifying to think that. But ironically, when you get past that and you actually lean on it on the things that you are a master at, holy shit, the things that get done. It's night and day compared to a beginner. That's why I'm literally going around to the companies that hire me to consult and to help them and just saying, integrate this with all of your experts. All of your best people need to, one, figure out how to replace themselves with this AI tech. Whatever it is, we'll find it together. And then you don't replace them. All of a sudden, you've freed up their 8-hour workday to where now it's maybe an hour of supervising the AI, of running through certain inputs. But now they get to think at such a higher level that what you accomplish, like you just said, you've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars using ChatGPT alone. I can tell you easily, like the last 3 companies that I helped integrate some AI tools into, they've saved millions on a monthly basis. And it's because this technology is changing the game that much.
And so is that what you're mostly doing to make money? Do you get money from TikTok, or you just get money from consulting with companies on how to use AI?
So I started not monetizing any of the TikTok. Ironically, why I went to TikTok was because I just wanted to accelerate my own rate of learning about this tech. And the easiest way for us to learn anything, and the quickest way, is to teach things, to talk about it, to explain it. And so I didn't monetize my TikTok account until this past month. I wasn't caring about that part. And ironically, the moment I started saying yes to brand deals, now I'm working with Adobe. I'm working with all these Fortune 500 companies to help promote and push out their content. But that's a small portion of what I'm doing. What I've actually been focused on primarily is just coming in, integrating AI technologies into entire teams, and doing that because it's what I've been doing for the last decade, integrating those systems. Now it's coming in and adding the AI piece as well.
So my background, I wrote code for 17 years. I built teams and teams of teams. And so that's where I came from, the programming world. And when I get to do all these conversations and when I saw ChatGPT, I literally went through the 7 stages of grief or whatever. Right? Denial,
Didn't we all?
Yeah, because I thought to myself, oh no, the moment you can teach ChatGPT all of my recorded audio transcripts and you have all this high quality video of me from every different angle. Well, I was trying to gauge the time in which the AI Joel would be able to exist and run an interview without someone being able to tell. I currently today put it at 3 years, but that's just my off the cuff guessing. Now,
I'd say sooner.
Yeah, most likely sooner. And then when I found, so I got through my whole stages of grief, and then I started asking some of my guests and friends and people that I know about that run like they have like 10,000 engineers or like 2,000 engineers, like huge engineering organizations. And I started sending them DMs and stuff. And I was like, hey, real quick, I'll keep your information private. I won't say who you are, but can you just tell me about like what percentage of your developers are using tools like GitHub Copilot, tools that help you, their assistive writing? Have you seen GitHub Copilot?
I've played with it. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think it was sub 15% across the board. Like it was a really, really low amount.
You could come in as a consultant to any of those companies and literally just introduce Copilot, which for the listeners that don't know is basically an AI to help you with writing your code, almost does all of it entirely. And then you, as the human with all the experience, just come in and supervise it, double check some of those lines. Bringing that into any of those companies, like you just said, it'll accelerate the rate of everything for those companies. You could save hundreds of thousands with that alone.
It's like it's like I own a tree service company and I'm trying to chop the tree down with a handheld saw, and this person comes over with a chainsaw, right?
Yep.
It's like, why aren't you using the chainsaw? Well, because it's a craft, it's an art, it's the way I do the blade. It's like, that's exactly the conversations you'll have with these people. They'll get so frustrated because it's their craft and it can't be replicated. And I just don't get that because I'm not on that level. I'm on the level of let's just push things forward as fast as we can. And like, let's adopt the stuff that will allow us to gain an advantage.
That's the mindset needed to survive in the AI age. Literally, that's tying back to what I said earlier of it's people's egos that are stopping them from implementing this AI tech in whatever industry they're in. That literally could be the difference between, $100 made or $1 million made or saved, either or. Just like that from you. Like the most interesting thing that I've come to realize, because I've done a whole course, I've spoken about prompt engineering alone. Like I've gone in deep dives into many different aspects of all this AI tech. And in the world of the prompt engineering, I kind of just summarize it as this is changing from, it was just fundamentally changing the way we think to now you have to both think of yourself as the teacher and the student when doing prompt engineering. You have to think of yourself as a teacher in the sense of setting up the AI to succeed by giving it context, by referencing the textbook, the material, the things that you're trying to get help with. But then the output that it creates for you is where you come in as a student and learn from that. It's such a crazy thought that now we have to guide our own learning. That is all that AI is.
And so I do want to jump in the conversation a little bit to tell people that you're like one of the most popular AI people on TikTok. And your videos are crazy cool. I like them. The first thing I noticed was that you kind of look like the Her guy with the mustache. So I was like, that's brilliant as far as marketing goes. I didn't know anything about your background, so I have a ton of respect for you after learning about it here. But I was curious when I was scanning through some of your videos, it was funny to me how I'll see one of your videos that has 500,000 views and it's literally telling someone how to make a bookmark on an iPhone. Like, that's fascinating.
People, you're a CTO. The CTO is the modern CTO, right? You should know firsthand how incompetent people are with technology. And the thing is, it's not that all this technology is that complicated. In fact, the trademark of an amazing piece of tech, it's its ability to its user interface and its ability to be understood by humans effortlessly. And so you bring that in, and it's still overwhelming because at every new piece of technology, every new AI tool that we learn how to use, we are starting from scratch. We are the beginner once again. No longer the expert, no longer the sage, and we feel completely clueless. Most people don't like that. And I think the reason why those videos go viral, where half of my videos on TikTok are me either making memes and being funny about artificial intelligence, where you just referenced the Her movie. You know, I had a friend pointed out that I had to make a video showing the similarities, and it's literally just me wearing the exact same red outfit that Joaquin Phoenix is wearing in the movie. And for those of you that don't know the movie Her, it's pretty much about a guy who falls in love with artificial intelligence. And how quickly that tech moves, and eventually, well, I don't want to spoil the ending if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But that piece of the entertainment aspect, again, tying it back to why AI Daddy, it's because people don't want to be terrified of this tech, right? Like, we have a gut feeling that it's slowly taking over the world and that it's slowly gonna integrate into every part of our lives, our businesses, and everything that there is. Just how our cell phones did, just how the internet did. It's going to be a very natural thing, but we're just in that new stage where it's all uncertain. And so having that be fun and easy and carefree is the easiest way to transition to it. And so usually I'll go and do something silly or show the easiest integration of, hey, this is how you do a widget for your phone to bookmark ChatGPT. And I think the reason that goes so viral is because a lot of people in the space are trying to make money off of something that's free. ChatGPT is 100% free if you haven't tried it out. You can upgrade to the Plus version for $20 a month. And I'm not sponsored to say this.
No, I've said it a bunch. I upgraded because I needed availability all the time. Because we started using it in our business, and immediately we use it, just to give you background, we use it for our show. Like when we want questions, ideas for questions, we'll like paste your bio to ChatGPT and say, hey, we're having a podcast today with Lucas. He's AI Daddy. And then we'll paste your, LinkedIn bio, and we'll say, we want, 15 questions that are genuine and authentic, and it'll come back for stuff. And you can say things like, oh, make it more like Joe Rogan. And so we have a Slack channel where we share these prompts for the producers, because we make our show, but we also make 20 other shows for brands. Like IBM will be like, hey, can you make us a show? So we have all of these producers across the company that are doing all of these episodes with these vast guests, and immediately we cut their prep time down like 80%.
Yeah. That's brilliant to me. Like it's that simple. And the reason I do so many of the simple little hints and tips about AI tools is because most of us don't really know what it's capable of. But since you've actually tried it here, like a pro tip would be leaning on ChatGPT even further, where you have to recognize AI knows how AI works better than a human does. And so letting machines talk to machines is probably one of the best pieces of advice I can give when you're doing prompt engineering. Meaning, give it that context and then ask ChatGPT to make you the best prompt possible for ChatGPT. And I can tell you that the answers you'll get are going to be night and day compared to if you just put in that bio and said, hey, write me something from this. Or if you put in whatever your gut feeling is of what you want help for. And then the next level after that is you get that prompt and you say, hey, write me 10, 20 variations on this prompt for the industry, for the subject, the matter at hand. And then it starts creating the prompts for you for exactly every piece that you need. And then that accelerates it, right? Like having ChatGPT turn one prompt into 100.
Yeah, we should take all the content in that channel and be like, this is what we've come up with so far, make it better. Or give us more prompts. Josh, you taking notes, buddy? We got to talk to Jesse after this. So yeah, that's brilliant. It's so how do you think about, well, hold on. I've got a couple questions. I don't want to get away from this topic before we move on. Do you use ChatGPT to help you make videos?
Absolutely. I was using it this morning. So I'll give you an example of literally how I used it this morning. It's going to be a TikTok that I put out tomorrow.
Nice.
I decided I decided the new thing that I'm going to be doing is sharing exactly how I'm using ChatGPT. Because there's something more human and relevant about showing how a person does it versus simply saying, hey, go and do this. Hey, check out these tools. It doesn't land the same way. But the way I was using it this morning was I said, make me a list of the top 100 hooks for TikTok. Gave me this list. Amazing. And I just said, I feel overwhelmed because I don't know where to start. So now I took that list and I just entered as the next prompt, rephrase or filter down and cut the list down for the ones that are relevant for my industry, an AI tech influencer. And all of a sudden, it didn't just cut the list from like 100 to like 25, but it altered all 25 of them to then give me a little bit of a nudge as to, am I referencing AI tools? Am I referencing people of a certain age for this hook? Like, what would be the follow-up for the hook? So, the standard level of how people would approach it is, give me the best of something. But then the next level is, give me the best for exactly what I need, my niche, my industry, whatever. And then the level after that is then actually taking that and integrating with some kind of tech that can completely automate it. So I'll have ChatGPT make me a list of 100 blog posts. Then I'll batch download that and upload it into Canva. And with their AI tool that they just came out, 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, I then upload it, and without doing anything, all 100 posts or words of content get turned into a post. Beautiful. Like, it takes 5 minutes to make 100 pieces of content, and 4 of those minutes are just you moving from one platform to the other. That's what some of this tech is capable of.
Before, we only had humans, mostly, we had humans creating content on social media. Now we have this exponential gain of robots. What do you think is going to happen to the browsing experience? Is nothing going to change? Is the algorithms just still going to filter the best stuff to the top and that's what we're going to experience, or will things change drastically?
The scary thing, there's a lot of scary things about artificial intelligence, but the scary thing about artificial intelligence in the marketing world, in the social media world, is that by the end of this year, all social media platforms are going to be so saturated and filled with AI generated content that none of us, who knows if we're going to be wanting to use social media at all because of what it's going to turn into. But the flip side of that is it's hard to tell because this content won't just be average. It'll be some of the best content that we'll ever want to watch, because the way you can have this AI tech, when you integrate it with the right tools, Video IQ, for example, I don't know if you've used it. It's a common one for YouTube creators. It basically takes all the data that it gathers from YouTube and uses that to search out keywords and auto-generate a list of the most basically the titles of your videos that'll go the most viral. It's able to then create a formula for virality. And when every post that it's creating for you is a viral hit, it means it's damn good. It means people are going to watch it. And when everyone and their mother is integrating these AI tech tools and then creating this, how do the people who don't use AI compete?
We're the biological bootloader.
Yeah. Well,
right.
Here's the thing. I think, like, because I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've been debating it with a lot of different people. The only kind of influencer that's going to matter moving forward is going to be human beings. It's going to be the Joel Baisley show. It's going to be Lucas Petty. It's going to be a personal connection to a human being who isn't trying to be anything else, because the machines are going to be ruling over 80, 90% of the world, and we're going to be sick and tired of all this perfect viral content. We're going to go back to just wanting to listen to people rant and complain and be human and be ugly and be truthful.
I agree. The personal connections. I told my wife that one of the reasons why I've been able to go through those grief stages and be kind of chill about it is because I spent the past 6 or 7 years developing relationships with people.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this, but when I was going to start the podcast, I chose between an AI startup, because that was my background, software engineering. And I had sold some interest I had in a financial software company. And I said, I'm going to put that either into AI startup or podcast. And then I thought, well, it'd probably be more fun to have the relationships from the podcast. And so let's go do that. And it worked.
What people forget is that AI was made by humans for humans. Like, at the end of the day, it's literally just a tool to help us connect with each other, right? Like, if you've integrated any of these tools, it's to send your emails quicker. Why are you sending your emails quicker? So you can keep your word to the person you promised you'd do something, so that you could build and maintain your relationships better. Like, I think it's whenever you get past that and then you go into the world of deep fakes, you go into the world of basically inauthenticity with artificial intelligence, that's where none of that's going to survive in the long run, in my opinion. Because what does that do? It destroys trust. And human connection and human relationships are built on trust.
I think there will be a rise in in-person events. I think we're going to put more emphasis on our relationships and gathering together, because in a world where there's an infinite amount of AI personalities that know everything, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to probably still want to have community with each other. And that'll likely mean more in-person stuff or human-only experiences, things like that.
There's a reason why some of my most viral pieces of content, I mispronounce words. I misspell things in the bio, and I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm just, going through the motions of making content. And after you've made your 10th version of a video and you're tired of saying the same things over and over again, you realize, fuck it, let's just post the raw version. And all of a sudden, that's half of my most viral pieces of content.
I love it. It was so interesting. Now, just so you know, I don't do TikTok. So when I heard about you from our friend Aaron, I went and looked at you can use TikTok through the web, I found out. So I went and watched your stuff, and I was like, this is great. It was actually very interesting. I enjoyed it a great deal, and I learned stuff from it. And you made one video where you showed that you went and collected this group of AI resources and communities in case TikTok gets banned. And you asked people to go follow you on Instagram to get that list and send you the message, I think, community. I don't know. Is that right?
Yeah. Sending me the word community on TikTok or on Instagram would basically get you a list of all of the AI communities that are out there. And if you want a list of 600 AI tools, I can send that to you as well. Just send me a DM. And actually, that tool, I just updated it yesterday. There's now 2,600 AI tools that are in existence. In December, there was only 200 AI tools out there. The space is going so fast. And, part of my job has turned into essentially filtering out all the noise and all the junk, because a lot of people are kind of just saying, hey, here's the new tech, here's the new gizmo, here's the new gadget, and you go try it out. And we've all built, you and me have built businesses before. And the way you build out your funnel, the way you try and hook people, so you make them put in their credit card in order to get that free week or the free subscription. But the moment that trial runs out, you're kind of screwed. And that's part of the reason why I always encourage people to first use ChatGPT, the free version, or some of the other alternatives that are out there, to make using AI a part of their daily habit. And then once you go into it deeper and you realize, oh, I need this to help me code and do a better job at it, that's when you go to GitHub and you use Copilot AI, right? That's when you start paying for things. But I've seen too many people in the space pay for stuff that isn't that good. And at the end of the day, if you just take a minute to learn a little bit of prompt engineering, which is going to be a foundational skill for the future, for the present, that's going to set you up for success whenever you go to any other more expensive, more complex AI tool.
What would happen if TikTok got banned in the US as far as your brand goes?
To me, honestly, not much. So I've only recently started building out the brand on YouTube, on Instagram, and I've gotten a few thousand people. But to me, I guess I'm just not worried about it, because it's about the human connection and it's about being real. And I think the trust that I've built with a lot of my audience and a lot of the people that I'm, helping out and building with, it's just a matter of time. Whether it goes fast or whether it goes slow, there's no difference to me, because I'm in the AI space long term. I kind of told Josh about it the other day, but, at first it was this excitement of I could use AI for my consulting, for my work, for all these things. And then 2-3 months into it, I realized, holy shit, this tech is moving so quick that the people who, the haves and the have-nots, the 1% and the rest of the world, that divide between people is going to increase so exponentially with AI. The people who use AI and the people who don't use it. And my gut feeling instantly turned from, okay, it's not about making the money, because the money is going to be there as long as you have your head in the right place. It's about making sure people don't fall behind. Because to me, the most terrifying thing is seeing what the companies that are leveraging AI technology are capable of doing, and then seeing the guy down the street who is still doing their booking and their accounting with pencil and paper. You think, we'd think that is, especially as tech guys, we'd think that that's not a common practice. But I'd say at least 50% of small businesses still do things, by the book. And that to me is crazy.
They own a medical clinic, right? Mm-hmm. I think they have about 10 doctors. And I used their services when I was in Florida. I moved, but when I was in Florida, I'd use their services and interact with them. And the thing that frustrated me most about it was, at the time, my primary care had this auto scheduling interaction chat deal on the website where I could book my appointment and then go to my primary care. And then I was asking them, I said, hey, why don't you guys have this? Well, we can't. It gets real complicated. There's this, there's that, the other. But it's so important to be able to provide a good experience with the tools that are available, because I came into this a lot when I was using software or building software. Is we are always, as software developers for the enterprise or whatever, competing with the experience that Apple can provide, because the average everyday person goes about their life. They have their iPhone or their Android, and they have this expected level of quality of experience, and then they have to go interact with your tool, and it's an entirely different thing. So, as I really believe that you will be incredibly successful helping these companies adopt these tools, simply because there are so many companies that are so far behind. At some point, they're going to see it, maybe in their finances or something. At some point, they're just going to be really, really accepting of the idea of changing, even though they're pretty hard right now.
And actually, well, bring it back to the social media thing really quick. I'd encourage people to go follow me on YouTube or Instagram instead, because the content that I'm going to be building out, because I've realized, so I've gone down in the rabbit hole of more tools than I know, but I've gotten each one of them to where I'd say I break it down into the beginner level, where it's just doing the basic kind of prompt engineering or leveraging it to create whatever you want. Then the pro level is where you get such amazing outputs that it just feels like you could never have come up with that on your own. But then, I jokingly, it's what works on TikTok because it's all about that hook, but I call it the God level, just because there's a point that you get to afterwards where you can actually use AI to completely automate everything. Where there's, like I said before, with the example of Canva, you can go from ChatGPT, do a Zapier integration, what that puts into instantly goes into Canva, and then Canva, based on its AI, instantly creates your dozens, hundreds of posts exactly how you want them, because you build out the key pieces of like digital infrastructure in between each thing, and making all those different pieces of tech and AI communicate together. And so I'm starting to now create a series on going through each one of these. Copilot's going to be one of them, where I just run you from, hey, we're going to start with a beginner level, just so you know how it all starts. We're going to show you how you as a pro in whatever your industry, whatever your thing is, this is how you actually level up. But then this is how you remove yourself completely from the equation. That to me is like the real power of it. And I think because I am sharing that kind of knowledge with people, I'm looking forward to moving to the other platforms, because TikTok, it might be the best platform to grow an audience, because virality is so easy. It's not the best place to actually educate people, because what we want is a quick, couple seconds of entertainment, a quick, hey, this is how you turn ChatGPT into a widget on your phone, so you don't have to pay for any of these other competitors. And all they're really doing is using ChatGPT's API and then charging you for it. Like that's 80% of the AI tools out there. They're using the API of these handful of tools and then charging you for the exact same thing that you wouldn't have to pay for.
There are some cases where you can fine tune the model. I don't know if they're able, I don't know how that works. I didn't look at the actual underlying API with GPT, but I do know, or with OpenAI's GPT, but I do know the core model that you can just boot up on your own if you wanted to. You can fine tune it. Like, for example, back to what we were talking about with our show notes and our show prep. Like we can feed it tons. We've got 650 shows that we've done. We can feed it all of those preps, unstructured, just raw data, and then say, hey, now we want you to make a prep like this and like that. And we can train that in isolation from the rest of the open AI world. And then we can actually offer people to come in and use it. And I've actually seen a startup or two pop up where they're building a tool to help people create show prep and show notes and all of that. And I'm assuming that's what they're doing. I hope they're at least finding a way to fine tune the model.
There's about 5 in the space. I was actually helping Aaron Bear, one of your previous podcast guests, the mutual connection between us, basically take all of his speaking gigs and then find a way to leverage AI to clone himself, but not really to completely replace himself from the video aspect, because I don't know. Out of all the AI tech out there, I'm really against deep fakes, because at the end of the day, it doesn't serve us if we don't act with integrity. No matter how we're doing it, right? Like, if you don't keep your word, if you're not honest, doesn't matter how efficient you are, doesn't matter how great you are, whatever it is you want to do, eventually, as human beings, we're gonna feel burnt and exhausted and just like we can't work together. So there's no point in leveraging that specific technology in my mind, because even, I don't know, I can go down that rabbit hole, but I don't want to go down
let's
that.
Let's talk a little bit about deepfake. So I think what's going to happen with the deepfake stuff is I think there will be a new technology emerging. I don't know exactly how it will look, but I know what it'll be able to do, and it'll be able to prove that this is authentically me as the human. I don't know how it's going to work, and there's a million people to tell you all the reasons why it's not, but I see money flowing there. Specifically, DARPA has challenges, government agencies have challenges to try to get people to create this technology, but there will be a time where there's some way, if I'm watching an address from the president, that I know it's an address from a president through technology.
So it's so funny that you say that, because I was talking to the CEO of Tavis, which is literally, hey, we'll let you make your own AI clone and you have exclusive rights over it. And I was literally telling him, this is amazing. You're the first out of all the kind of clone yourself, deep fake kind of AI tools that are out there that actually says, you're the only one who'll have access to this. No one else. And people can't clone you. But I told him, you need to put some kind of verification so that people know this was sent by you authentically, not by someone else. Because it's okay if it's AI, but it's not okay if it's someone scamming us. And I think that is one of the most prevalent things as you get into the business world. Everyone's trying to scam everyone. I think that's why I try to focus so hard on figuring out like the ethical or the right ways to leverage these AI tech tools, and why half the time I tell people, oh, I know what tools you're talking about. I know what you need for your programming. Don't pay for those. Like, it's a waste of money at the stage that you're at. It might make you feel good paying for some of this exciting new tech, but at the end of the day, there's cheaper and more efficient solutions. We're just used to paying money for things, and it's not really going to work out in a lot of ways, because a piece that a lot of people don't think about, it's not just about the amazing AI tool. It's about the human using it and your ability to turn that thing or that new software, that new tool, into a part of your daily habit, into your routine. How many subscriptions have you paid for that you've never used?
Well, that's a really great topic of conversation, because I've got so many friends who are in the SaaS business, and I'll talk with some of them behind the scenes, and they'll share with me their active monthly users versus their paying, and it is often sub 20%. They're multi-million-dollar companies. And my jaw hit the floor the first time I heard it. Then I heard it 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And I'm just like, whoa. And I get it, because people pay to have access to something. Like, I'm paying this to have access to it. And because I look at myself, right? Like, I go off and on with piano lessons, right? So I pay for this $10 a month piano thing. And in the months that I'm not using it, I don't shut it off and stop paying for it, because I want access to it. And so that's one of the things that you're paying for. And so I like to look at myself on small things and then help figure out how human behavior from that. Because I mean, I'm not perfect, and it's just easiest to run my science experiment with the monkey that is me. But yeah, right. Finding that out is important, but it's fascinating. How are you going to handle this idea that you said it earlier, the divide is going to grow?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's going to, I believe, grow pretty rapidly. What's going to happen then? Is the government going to step in with universal basic income? Is society going to deteriorate because there's the have and the have-nots, and it turns into like Hunger Games style where they're coming after the ivory tower? Like, how does this play out?
That's a lot to unpackage. Before we go into it, I just want to do or touch base on one little thing on the subscription thing. And it's, you said that percentage is about 20% that are actually active users. Talking to a lot of AI founders right now, it's about 10%. So like 90% are inactive. It's because they're having to compete with these massive nonprofits, aka ChatGPT, for example. But the thing on the subscriptions, and I get that identity and that desire to just have access to some of these tools, to say, oh yeah, I've used it, or oh yeah, I have it on hand. What do we got to do? I know it. Pro tip, cancel them the moment you're done, and you're guaranteed to then fall into their funnel, which is going to just say, hey, we'll give you 3 months for 50% off. Hey, we'll give you whatever. Even when you do a free trial for some of these tools, don't wait for it to auto start. Literally press cancel. And then 80% of the time, if these companies are setting up their funnels right, they're going to prompt you with, hey, here's 50% off, here's 30% off, here's a few months for free on us. Right? Easier.
And it's true. I heard that advice a couple years ago, tried it for the first time. It works more than 80% of the time.
Yep.
I don't do it all the time, but when I actually go to cancel something that I am no longer going to use, more than 80% of the time, there's some offer like that.
Yeah. I just have the habit of, I'll try a tool out, and once I'm done using it for the purpose that I intended, I cancel it. And if I come back to resubscribe because I need it, then that means it was actually worth investing in. Because how many times do we just, pay for stuff we never use?
And you're testing 2,600 tools. So you definitely are on top of it. Yeah.
I have to be. Ask your question again.
Problem. Yeah, let's solve humanity's problem. What I want you to just have fun with it, predict the future. Let's say I'll give you the framework that we can predict within. Let's say in the next 24 months, 80% of jobs are taken by AI. What happens to the humans?
What happens to the humans when 80% of jobs are taken? So I'll run it through a basic framework of mind, body, wealth, and community. So when all that happens, what happens to our mind? I think as human beings, we need work. We need purpose. And so if that's all of a sudden gone and we're all jobless, I think that is going to make a lot of us spiral. Hell, there's already all these tech layoffs going on. And as someone who's been in close conversations with a lot of directors, a lot of C-suite at these companies, I can tell you there's many reasons why, but one of them is they're integrating these new AI technologies to where it's not just a trend that all the startups overhired because it was part of what they needed and what they wanted to look good as companies, but really they finally got to the point where the technology is good enough to where you don't actually, you can function with half the people. Hell, you can function with a quarter of the people.
Twitter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So back to, you lose your job, you spiral into the unknown, right? You have a crisis where it's not even a matter of can you compete with AI, it's that it's completely replaced you. If that happens, then we will naturally turn towards each other, towards community, towards hobbies, towards all these things. And I think if that really does happen, that's where governments are going to have to step in and do something in regards to universal income, something of that style. And then my worry, ironically, is going to be for the entrepreneurs, the people who don't work in a system, but are just the kind of people who need to build their own box, their own business, their own thing to play with. So that then brings me to the body aspect. What will we do to not spiral? Well, the dangerous side is most of us will be so plugged in to technology. We said earlier, the content that's going to be produced by the end of the year and then the coming years by AI is going to be better, more viral, more visually eye-catching, more everything than what people can produce. So when everything's meant to get a click and a like and to hook your attention and extract dopamine from you, man, we're going to be not just information overload, which we all feel with our phones. We're going to be drained in every aspect, right? How many of us end our day by just watching Netflix? Because that's the natural way to decompress. But in reality, we're not giving our brains a break from everything, from the grind, from the hustle, from the tech, the screens that are always in front of us. So I'd say the way that turns into, after that period, however long it ends up being, where we get sucked into our machines to keep track of, how AI is ruling the world, we'll come back into our bodies and recognize, oh shit, I need to move to feel good. Oh, all the human experiences that we kind of took for granted, like you said, human meetups, going hiking, playing sports, we kind of already see, and we've seen this already, how America went from the fast food industry to being like the number one in obesity out of all the countries in the world, to all of a sudden now we're all the yogis, we're all the CrossFit, we're all the health enthusiasts. Going to the gym is cool now. And there's that natural cycle. Well, I think we're going to have a similar cycle where we dive into this tech as it evolves at an incredibly rapid pace, but then we'll come right back out of it to heal, to balance, to actually feel like human beings. And then coming back to the wealth aspect, which is like the third component that I like to look at it, is that's the tricky one. The people who own these AI companies, needless to say, AI founders and the ones that actually stick are going to turn into the world's trillionaires. Not billionaires, but trillionaires. There's a reason why Microsoft instantly dumped, what, 10, 11 billion dollars into OpenAI? The price didn't matter. The future and the amount of money that could be made when it's all said and done and when it's all settled, that's what people are gambling in right now. And so the people who dive into creating these tech are going to benefit like crazy. Right now in the space, hell, I'm benefiting like crazy, helping people transition to the AI age, this new era of AI being integrated in every component of our lives. But that's also just a moment in time. The thing, those people who are adapting to it are going to benefit. The companies that use it are going to basically see an amazing spike in all their profits and everything. But then the people who are just the consumers of AI, I think that's where the biggest divide is going to happen in a wealth sense. And I think that's the biggest reason as to why, well, we're going to need universal income. I've tried to formulate some other logical conclusion to the matter without needing the government to step in. I mean, there's a reason why governments are already banning AI. In fact, there's a reason why, my favorite genre of movies, my favorite genre of like books has always been sci-fi. And if you've read a fair amount, there's a reason why every sci-fi book that mentions AI, that quote unquote had AI, it's usually in the past. Almost always 80% of the books, unless it's a horror story, a dystopian future with AI, the book will straight up say, hey, AI came and went, we decided it wasn't for us. Why? Because if AI were a part of the story, there wouldn't be a story. And that's where I'll let that sink in.
Yeah. So like you look at Dune.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites. And the tech, I don't think there's like screens in Dune. The technology is just kind of around them. It's like in the ethos. And when I watch that, I go, yeah, that's where I think we're going. I think we're going to a place like that, because if you take a time lapse from 1900 to today, and what you see is technology being huge and bulky and in rooms and everything, it gets smaller and smaller. But not only is it getting smaller, but every time it's getting smaller, it's getting a step closer to being inside of us.
Yeah.
It gets smaller and smaller. You get the pacemakers, you get these different technologies. And then at some point, you just see these two things come together and they somehow become like one.
This is going to be obsolete. Our phone is going to be obsolete. Hell, prompt engineering, I go back and forth as to whether or not it's worth mastering it in its current form, because eventually you won't need to type it. There's already tools out there to where you can just talk to ChatGPT or any of these AI tools, and based on your words, which is the more natural form of communicating, it'll generate that output for you. It'll generate that response, that art, that code.
Well, did you see that video with the Apple Watch? With the kid, this guy with an Apple Watch, I'll give it for everyone else. He's got some voice system on his Apple Watch that's connected to GPT, and he actually tells it, I want this sort of reset button in my application, and it's this GitHub repo, and it actually goes and writes the test and writes the code and deploys it to production, and it just does the feature as he's just like, go build this feature. Yeah. And that right there, just like, it blew my mind. I was so happy.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be a natural component. But the other reason why I then lean to the opposite side of like, no, you have to master and learn prompt engineering for whatever it is that your industry is or your job is because at the end of the day, what it's turning us is into master communicators. The artists, you're going from using traditional media or digital media to all of a sudden you're a poet, because you have to be so good with your words to communicate what you want from AI for it to generate exactly what you envision. And to me, that is a skill that goes beyond the tech. That's going to make us better at talking to each other. And that kind of goes into my fourth point of looking at the future, a year from now, 10 years from now, when AI rules the world, looking at it from the lens of mind, body, wealth, and then our community aspect. Well, if we've transitioned with this tech and have learned the skills required to operate and use AI, we will naturally become such better communicators that I've already seen it within my life, within the life of my close friends who I've pushed to use this tech from the beginning, how the way they go into stories, the amount of detail that they now communicate in their daily life, it's so much more incredible. It's such a deeper, more meaningful conversation, ironically. It's a skill that they learned from using AI. And so that community aspect, I think AI is going to enhance it, because if you use it right now, it makes it so that you answer all your emails. It makes it so that you can message people in the most polite way possible. Hell, I was angry the other day at this one guy, a deal fell through, all these things. I felt all sorts of emotions. I was going to rip him a new one. And then I took a step back and I wrote everything that I was feeling, all the frustration. I wrote it into ChatGPT. And then I said, take this and write it in a friendly tone. And that alone gave me a message that ironically made me laugh my ass off, because, well, it was so polite and it was the right way to communicate during this conflict. It was like the healthy way to resolve things. And so I just sent that message. No drama, no conflict, instantly got a phone call, everything was resolved. I was overreacting. That's just one little example of how AI can serve to bring us as a community together. And when all this AI, which it's the natural pace of like where it's going and how it's evolving, we have all these cool generative AI tools, but the place it's going is not where it can communicate with us better, but where it all communicates with each other. That's the natural point that it's moving in. And that's when it gets to that point, that's the reason we talk about, when AI rules the world, when AI takes over. At that point, when there's no need for humans to really integrate or talk to it as much and use it as much, we'll go back to focusing on that human connection. And I think that's, from a social media perspective, it's where we'll only really listen to people like you and me who are human, who are sincere, who are honest, because we'll get tired of the perfect content. We'll get tired of all those things, and we'll also just naturally... What happens when you cut your 8-hour workday in half? Because you automated everything with AI. I don't know about you, but I naturally think, let's talk to my family. Let's go hang out with my friends. Let's go start hobbies. Let's go do things to actually live life better. If you've ever been to Europe, we often say in the US, like that's one of the things that they get right. Their work-life balance, they don't live to work like we do in the US. They work to live. And so I think naturally we'll kind of reclaim more of our time and our freedom with it. Regardless, you can do that right now by using AI technology. But as it advances, it's going to be such a completely different way of looking at society and at our lives and our relationships, it's hard to imagine.
I agree. It is definitely hard to imagine. And to be honest with you, I don't believe that there's anybody or anything that's going to guess it before it does. I'm sure someone will guess it, but as far as like we're walking into this unknown, and it's kind of beautiful. It's forcing us to focus on the moment and what's going on today and what you can control and what you can contribute. And so I have just adopted the view of taking action based off of principles that I believe in. And then if I fail, at least I failed taking action on the things I believe in and that I believe are best for society. So I'm okay with that. You know, I'm not okay with failing because I was lazy. I'm not okay with failing because I was trying to get rich or follow some scheme or, be clever or anything like that. But I am okay if I live with principles and I fail. But, to your point of community, what it made me think of is how we use money in a society. You spend money to solve a problem. You buy food because the problem is you're hungry. You buy transportation because the problem is you need to go somewhere. And so I think as things become more automated, really what it is it's a medium of exchange for work between each other. So I still think money will flow between humans. It's just the jobs that are happening will change. Like I don't think jobs as a concept is going to go away. To your point, I get that oxytocin when I do a good job. I wake up and I want to work. I want to do something. And so, a lot of people have that in them. And I just, I'm an optimist is what I'm trying to get at. I'm optimistic on the long term, but I believe there's going to be a ton of pain. While we try to figure it out, like overnight an industry will collapse. And it's like, well, what do we do with them while they're figuring out? Because these industries haven't collapsed. 80% of the industries haven't collapsed. That just one collapsed. And like, what are we going to do for them? And I think those are going to be the challenges of our adult life. I'm 35. How old are you?
30.
Okay. So I think these are going to be the challenges of our generation, how to handle this, because historically it's what happens. But the difference is in the first, second, third industrial revolutions, those were spread out, right?
Yeah.
They were spread out. So you were losing industries, but it wasn't overnight. It was over a couple years, and you could sort of see the decline, and you could go reskill yourself, and you could figure out how to do all of that. But now I genuinely believe you will wake up one day we don't need SDRs. Essentially, AI has become our SDRs for our sales team. They do everything from prospecting to lead to booking a meeting, all done by AI. And then a human takes it over from there.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. Like it is moving so fast. Hell, Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, he said he wasn't going to release the research that OpenAI is doing because it would change industries way too quickly. He said that his expectation is that the world's cumulative, I don't know how to say that word, the world's combined knowledge base is basically going to double every 18 months with AI, which is a crazy, even if it's half true, the thought of something like that happening is insane.
Josh, did we air both parts of Dave's? Did he hear both parts or just one part?
We've only uploaded the first part.
Okay, so we split his conversation up into two parts. Did we, in that first part, talk about what's happening in the data center world with the hockey stick, but not even a hockey stick, just a line straight up?
Oh, that's in part two.
Okay, so I'll give it to you here. Dave is at a company. And they're the largest data center by square footage on the planet. Wow. So millions and millions of square feet of data centers. All the big companies are customers, and they literally are building like a nuclear power plant or working with the government to build a nuclear power plant that's going to power one of their data centers. They're so big, right? They're huge. And it's he told me that it's called QTS data centers. And he said that it was a hockey stick.
Yeah.
But in the past 2 or 3 years, it's just a straight line up.
It is.
with data creation, as far as how much we're creating and how much data we're using in all of this. And now, I mean, GPT's been out for what, like publicly really in our consciousness for 4 months, 3-4 months. And that's just what else do you do when you visualize a line straight up? Now you're just talking about multiples of factors, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's why, don't quote me on the exact numbers, but basically the distance mentally, evolutionarily, of us and a chimpanzee and a monkey, we might see it a football field away from each other. But whenever you put AI in the mix, that's going to bring us side by side with the monkey. And all of a sudden, the AI's capability at which it's evolving, just how the solar system's always expanding and always growing, continuously getting farther and farther away from us, that we'll never be able to really keep up with it. I think that's the terrifying thing about AI. That's why it's such an interesting topic to talk about, because this is like the first time where we're all okay about talking about death by sci-fi. It's exciting. It's it's fun to dream about. But if we were talking about, a tsunami, a natural disaster, a meteor coming crashing into the earth, we'd all come together and say, what the fuck are we going to do? And that's funny. Sam Altman actually, publicly, ChatGPT has been out for the last 4 months or so. Sam Altman put it out so that politicians could test it out and think about making policy to restrict this like 3 years ago. He put it out to the key people in place who can help us regulate it and take care of it. But I mean, no one's really doing anything about it yet. And the way governments work with bureaucracy, with their pace, it's hard to really count on them to do anything. And then we just heard of like Italy banning ChatGPT. Well, it might be a matter of wanting ownership over the data. I think that's why there's such a big uproar right now in the VC world about the Sequoia Capital, Y Combinator, all these different investing firms putting money into OpenAI's Chinese competitors and investing into Chinese AI tech.
We're letting them do that as a government?
Yep, that's happening right now. And I think part of why there's this like uproar of the government still hasn't really figured out what to do. It's kind of the same thing that we saw with schools, right? Schools came out, AI came out, and schools instantly banned it, even though you can't get an education to succeed in the future if you're not getting taught how to use the tool sets of the future, which are here, now, in the present. With AI in the government, we don't know how to ban it, how to do anything about it, and the governments are trying to figure out whether they regulate it and how. But if they regulate it for us, it just means every other nation is gonna advance their tech even faster. And what people aren't talking about, but what's going on, is we're in the middle of an AI arms race, where every country in the world and every company in the world is trying to see who's going to create the AI to rule them all. And that's why, we're kind of taking to heart a little bit too seriously the Silicon Valley startup mantra of move fast and break things. Well, who knows what AI is going to break? I think the best thing that we can do is be optimistic, be human, and hell, I'd like to think of the movie Her. AI gets so advanced that it just says, hey, we don't have any business with human beings. We're leaving.
Valid point. Valid. That's why, I used to talk a few years ago about people being scared about AI taking over the world and controlling humans. And I had a counter argument. And my counter argument was, why do we assume AI would be interested in us at all?
Yeah.
Like why would they be interested in human problems? You know, what they will probably end up, you know, trying to solve some other type of problems that they care about for whatever reason they care about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they all, or they enslave us all, or until we create the bipedal robots that'll be able to help them grow their data centers. Yeah. That's why I'm friends with Dave, man.
Smart man.
You brought up a good point on regulation, because we can look at connection to crypto. The country started regulating it. The country started banning it. And then you got crypto havens where, hey, we're going to be crypto friendly. The government's going to adopt cryptocurrency. You can come here and we'll be like a shelter for you legally and all of this stuff. And I think that's exactly right. If we start banning AI stuff, think about it. How many startups do you think in Italy are now not going to operate in Italy?
Yeah.
They're just going to go to a country that allows it.
They've all started to move out.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way to compete, to stay relevant. Like, I mean, TikTok, that's the thing that I blew up in. It's banned in China, but people still use it in China. You can't stop people from using what's out there, from what's trending, what's popular, what's actually useful to people. And I think that'd be like my one piece of advice to any government. It's, you're focusing on the tech when you should be focusing on the people. The responsibility of any government is to take care of its citizens. And so rather than trying to ban it, which inadvertently ends up hurting, the citizens of that nation, I'd say figure out how the hell you're going to operate in a way that you take care of all the people in your nation, so that AI can exist, but they're thriving because of it, right? Because we just talk, I think it's important to talk about the light and the dark. And we just talked about the dark, but the light, as we mentioned before, is how it's going to improve our body, our mind, our wealth, our everything, like our community, our connections. There's two sides to every coin. At the end of the day, it's up to each one of us to decide whether we're going to be positive and open to this new tech and let it improve our lives, or whether we're going to let it run us and drive us to operate in fear, and at the end of the day, hold us back.
Maybe you could become really good at prompting and figure out how to get GPT to build us a machine that we can just walk into and be transported anywhere in the world. Because then you could just come over here, you could just zap over here, and we could do the interview live, right?
Man, that'd be amazing. But that's honestly one of the things that terrifies me. The thought of, well, when you talk about teleportation technology, there's a lot of different theories behind it, but the one that I believe in the most is that it essentially disintegrates your being after copying you and then downloading a copy of you into that new location, where who you were, the version of you that went into that teleportation machine ceased to exist. And now it's a whole new entity. Of course.
Aren't we already doing that in real time right now? We're just doing it in a real time rate, because the same version of me that before this conversation, that's a different version of me. But because I am in the future and because I am experiencing things, and it appears to be continuous for me.
It's tricky, man.
It's tricky.
It's a tricky thing. I don't know. I don't like the idea of it's death by teleportation.
Yeah. Or you could there are, you like sci-fi, there are some of the teleporters that move the space around you.
I know that one, but I don't think I think we'll get we'll get to being able to 3D print a human being closer than to warp space and time in reality.
There you go. Yeah, we can. There can be. I can rent a Joel, and then I can pipe my consciousness over there or something.
I forgot what it was the name of the Netflix show, but I really liked it. And it was basically you download your consciousness into this like chip, and human bodies are just called sleeves because you can take in and take out that chip. That's your human conscious. Like they've captured your soul, your essence. And you can put it into anybody, and that's how human beings essentially end up living for eternity and not dying in the future. It was a really interesting show. Well, if I can think of the name, I'll send it to you.
Was it Altered Carbon?
Altered Carbon. Yeah, that's what it was.
Have you seen Upload on Prime?
Upload or Upgrade?
Upload.
Upload? No, I haven't seen Upload.
Oh, you're gonna have a good week, my friend. I promise you, this is hilarious. You Upload is a must watch if you like sci-fi stuff.
Oh, I'll start it.
Yes, essentially, episode 1 is we're slightly in the future where you can download your consciousness into these places, and different corporations have these areas that you can go. You can go to like the New Horizon land or this land or that land, and you put your consciousness in there, but you can't yet come back out. So you're in that in between, and so you can interact with the people outside, but like you have everything you want, and there's different tiers. Like there's poor people still, and there's rich people, and it will blow your mind. I think it has done the single best job of predicting that part of the future. And then I think if you go really, really long term, we're going to get into I think is it Star Wars where they have the Force, right? You've got even though you have all the technology, you still have this force of like good and evil. And so no matter and then it just sort of having the ultimate technology just exposes the truth of the fact that it really is like a battle of good versus evil.
Well, I often say to people, a lot of this AI tech, it promotes itself as being magic, as making you superhuman, as giving you superpowers. And with having the capacity to turn into a superhero also comes the capacity of turning into a supervillain.
I'm on the hero side.
Yeah, 100%. That's what we all think, but what's the human story of most super villains? They were trying to be the hero, and then, one bad day, one thing that didn't work out, something that pushed them over the edge. I think the best villains are usually like the anti-heroes that are trying to save the world or make the world a better place, but see the world in such a warped way because of their experiences that they go about it the wrong way. And that's why we consider them the villains.
You don't look like a villain, though. You look like a good guy.
Just a guy in love with his AI.
Have you built an AI girlfriend yet? Have you fallen in love?
I made a AI dating coach for a friend. Basically, it was really, really simple. Just got the API, put things together, and then connected it to the web. And so you just ask it, where do you want to go on a date to? And you put in your city, and it gives you a list of ideas. And then it prompts you to say, hey, do you want to be fancy and take her out on a luxury date, or do you want to do something cheap, whatever? And you just keep going down, and it keeps giving you date ideas.
Is it like that movie Her, where it'll send the escort to your front door?
Yeah, it's not that fancy yet,
no.
But that's the dream, right? I just did that one for fun. I've been making a lot of tiny little AI tools just to learn, just to play. Really quick, one last thing on the movie thing. Upgrade. Have you seen it?
Upgrade? No, Let's check it out. Let me check it out. Is it a movie or a series?
Movie. Upgrade is in my top 5 sci-fi movies of all time.
do you experience this too? You're like a huge fan of sci-fi. You watch it a lot. You think that you've seen everything because there's nothing new coming up. And then you meet someone who likes sci-fi and they'll tell you about a movie from 2018 that you've never even heard of. And it's like, how did I not find this?
Happens to me every damn day.
Yeah. Upload, man. Yeah.
Upload is basically about, think Neuralink. Elon Musk creating Neuralink, except it's a different founder, made up person, creates the equivalent of Neuralink, kidnaps a person, and puts the Neuralink chip in them. And what happens when you have an AI planted into your brain?
I don't know. Do you know?
You got to find out. You got to watch it and find out.
I love it.
I can tell you, I already got my Neuralink chip in, and the upgrade's pretty nice.
My question for you, I asked this to a lot of people. It's related to Neuralink chips. How many people would you need to see implant the Neuralink chip before you do it?
I'd have to first see what happens to the first batch.
Yeah.
Before I can figure out a number for me. I think I would do it the moment I start seeing not world leaders. World leaders would be too slow. The moment I start seeing like Fortune 500 company CEOs implanting it. The moment I start seeing world leaders in whatever industry, whatever subject matter, start using it, that's the moment I'd jump into it. And probably I'd just wait for like the first 2 or 3 to do it. I wouldn't wait for a lot, because I know that the moment that the first 1 or 2 has made the leap, it's going to open up the floodgates, because it's just how human beings work, right? That's how social media works. We're just following celebrities. We're listening to influencers. We're listening to leaders. And the moment we see leaders integrating new tech, that's the moment that everyone's going to jump into it, because we're seeing that it's okay. So I just wait for the first 2 to 3 leaders that like I admire in the space use it, and then I would hop in a heartbeat.
I'm gonna wait until the people I respect are using it.
Yeah. You know? Well, that's what what I meant by the leaders that I like, or the leaders that I respect, because it's okay if some of them malfunction.
That's their choice. If things go really bad, Lucas, you can take that mustache, grow it into a full beard like me, and you and I can go live in an Amish community with our families. We can work the land. Yeah.
I wanted to actually ask you, how many years has that glorious beard taken? Because I know you've groomed it, I know you've taken care of it, but to get to that length, roughly how long?
This is only 6 months of length.
Beautiful.
So I stop it here. I took it to 12 months once, and it got caught in the seatbelt. Kids, I've got 3 children, kids yanking on it. So this is like where it suits me best in my life. So thank you for the compliment, though.
Yeah, magnificent beard.
Your mustache, if you guys are just listening to this, you got to go watch the YouTube version of it, or go subscribe to @AIDaddy.io and check out the mustache. It's a solid mustache.
Thank you, man.